let's talk a little bit about Washington Black. Washington Black, of course, is a series that debuted on Hulu early this week. I think it dropped like Wednesday, right? And adapted from E.C. Adeyugan's acclaimed novel, Washington Black is a richly imaginative, emotionally resonant 8-part miniseries that blends historical fiction, adventure, romance, and speculative realism to tell a story rarely seen on screen, Charles. Mm-hmm. Executive produced by Sterling K. Brown, the series transcends familiar narratives of slavery by centering hope, connection, and the transformative power of art. Now, let me talk a little bit about this, which I found to be fascinating because I watch a lot of stuff, and I'm not discounting anybody else's watch experience, but I'm telling you, I watch a lot of stories about enslaved people. Right? Okay. And generally, whenever we tell these stories, no matter how hopeful they are, there's always subjugation, there's always pain, there's always disrespect. You're always being felt less than. And I'm talking about, when I say we, talking about the audience of people of color who have to sit through these stories, to sit through the pain and the trauma to get to the hope and the inspiration on the other side. Right. Well, guess what? In this story, which takes place...
Pain and trauma.
Well, no. In this story that happens in the early part of the 19th century, yes, he is an enslaved guy who's working in the sugarcane field somewhere over in the Barbados for a hateful plantation owner, right? The one thing that the movie doesn't show, outside of a couple of instances where people might get smacked or some stuff like that, there's nobody getting whipped. There's not an overabundance of trauma, of even though they're slaves. It reminded me, ironically, of a Dave Chappelle skit, right? Dave Chappelle once said in a skit, and I'm paraphrasing, that black men don't ever have the ability to just be and just dream and exist, right? Because, we always are dealing with some sort of trauma. Right. Well, this is a story that happens during slavery with the story of a kid who's young. He might be 5 or 6, but he's got a vivid imagination and he's really, really smart. And everybody in the community sees that this kid could be something special. And they protect him, nurture him, hide him, and do whatever they need to do to make sure that this kid can be allowed to be who he is, which is radically different than anything we've ever watched.
In terms of that kind of story,
in terms of that kind of story. Like, this kid was a dreamer who wanted to fly, right? And when he said wanted to fly, he was an inventor who wanted to create a machine that could fly. Instead of somebody going, boy, just sit your butt in the corner, man. Ain't nobody got no time for that, man. You better pick this. You better
go get some cotton.
You better chop this sugar cane and stop playing.
You better fly in them fields.
He meets, and also I called it the Psalm 23:6. Goodness and mercy followed this kid all his entire life. His entire life. It was fascinating to watch. I went, haven't seen this one before. Wow. So he even though he's on a plantation with a hateful slave owner, the slave owner's brother's an abolitionist who understands and sees how special he is, and the slave master says, you go ahead on, you can take this kid. So him and the kid start all these adventures. Now, the thing that's interesting about it, because I couldn't figure this out myself, is it's an 8-part miniseries, but Hulu only gave you 4 episodes to review. So this review that I wrote is off the first 4 episodes.
So in other words,
looking at the pictures. No, stop. So I'm looking at the pictures, and I'm trying to download the pictures, and I'm like, at what point in the story is this kid? Because this kid travels all around the world. Now, again, remember, this is the early 19th century, so it's not like, there were planes and he could just jump on. No, this story happens. He's in the Arctic, like over the course of 8 episodes. He's in the Arctic. He's in Morocco. He's in Nova Scotia. This is truly an international story that I think is so good. You literally should take these 8 episodes, put together a curriculum, and just take it to schools and just show it to kids. Because by the 8th episode at the end, I was like, what's happening? It is deeply emotional. I thought Washington Black was brilliant. Washington Black is so brilliant. Shane, you ready? The first 4 episodes, I watched it. I said, I'm going to give it a B+. By the time I got to the end of the 8th episode, the B+ got bumped up to an A. I was like, wow.
Okay.
Washington Black, which is on Hulu right now, is frigging amazing. Executive produced by Sterling K. Brown. There are, and then you can go to the Film Gordon and just read the review. That's all I'll tell you, because I poured some stuff into this review because I was feeling this show, and I just kept on writing and couldn't stop writing. I was like, yeah, there's some more. Because now let me also say, because one of the things, there was one thing I had to add after the end. There's a backstory for Sterling K. Brown's character that's in here that is deeply touching. Okay. It is deeply touching. And I'm not going to spoil it. Just watch the miniseries. When you get to that, remember I told you how deeply touching that whole thing is. And there are so many great moments of people who are kind. Who just don't have to be kind. Who are just kind to this kid. I don't know what it was about this character, but people just wanted to help this guy out because they kept looking at him going, he's the one. He's like Neo. He can be somebody. So it is a very interesting miniseries. And for us, since we also run the Black Reel Awards for television, this will not be the last time you hear about Washington Black. I got a feeling that when nominations come for next year's Black Reel Awards for television, Washington Black is going to be in the mix. That's a good one.
If they don't forget.
No, he's not going to let you forget.
Ernest Kingsley Jr.
Yes, he was absolutely amazing, man. And he was the young. No, I'm sorry. That was the older version of Washington Black. The younger version is played by Eddie Caranja. So, yeah. Really,
it's funny
really
because
good.
You hear stories like in the hood where you got a football player, a basketball player, and everybody protects him, make sure he makes it out and becomes good.
That was our generation.
Yeah,
yes.
that's our generation. Mm-hmm. But to see this happening in the early 1900s?
No, this is the early 1800s.
Oh, okay.
This is 1820, something like that.
Wow. I gotta see this.
Yeah, so Washington Black, man, is on Hulu right now. Once you finish listening to this and you turn this podcast off, just go and check it out. I promise you. Grab the family. Matter of fact, I grabbed mine last night, and I think we got through the first 2 episodes. So we still got 6 that we need to go through. So that is Washington Black. So any questions on...